friends. Good to be here with you today. It is I, Kevin Rogers, and that is Joe. It's the Man in the Middle show with Kevin and Joe. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Dude, I can't get over how good my life is right now. And I want to express that because perhaps better than anyone, how not okay it's been at times over the life of this show. And it just felt, we chatted last night and it felt so good to give you good news and really mean it, not talking through the bandages. You know what I mean? Nah, it'll heal. Well, I'll be fine. And again, you're the kind of friend I can be so honest with. And man, you've been such a support for me. I can't thank you enough for all that. And you said it yesterday, man. The beauty of being there when people are struggling is that you get to see them rise up on the other side of it. You
Oh,
know,
it's the best. That's the
it,
best, dude.
it's really gratifying because you know they will, but also dark times are dark times, man. I'm not gonna lie, that there were just, I went to some places that I didn't recognize ever, and also hadn't insecurities I hadn't felt in so many years. And it's the real leap of faith of trust the process. You do even if you can only do the minimal things that get you through, which is move your body and allow for processing. If you can give yourself some space, man, to process. And that's what's been on my mind, Joe, to think about with men who struggle, particularly in leadership roles, which frankly every man is in a leadership role. It's just how life and society is designed. you know However you cohabitate, for the most part, the masculine energy is the leader of the household, and men are chosen to lead. And I think the people who resonate best with these discussions are people who have taken on a lot and challenged themselves constantly. And so having this downtime, and I'd say for the last 3 or 4 months, dude, it's been the undoing, of everything. My business, I'm sunsetting my business. I'm, lots of relationships have transitioned, and many of them have improved, and many of them we'll see, and some have ended, and it's all okay. But man, it's made me aware of the idea that we must give ourselves some way, some time to process what we're going through. And again, to have this luxury of doing it by choice, and now feeling physically, mentally, that I'm on the other side of it, makes me so aware of the noise of life. For instance, I rarely get text messages anymore. I very rarely have to urgently respond to any kind of email. My team is down to one person. It was as many as 12 in the last 3 years or so. So it's just a completely different life. And I'm 55 years old, so obviously there's fear and pressure of, am I too old to start over? Am I, what do I do with this? What does this world look like? There's so many more people are probably getting not hired because they're overqualified than underqualified and decent positions, right? And so, but man, just finding ways to put that aside, do the math, say, what's my runway, and give myself the time to do that. I respect that is a luxury that not many people have. But I also recognize, Joe, that there were many times in my life where I didn't seek that at all, didn't feel the need for it. I was in the game, I was in the hustle, and that is a certain gear that it is a privilege, again, to be afforded. You have to really work hard to sort of have responsibilities to live up to be in a leadership role. But man, now that I've been in some quiet, I just am really conscious of the level of noise that we all deal with every day. And I'm not just talking about the extra stuff, the social media and all the stuff that we kind of, society's forced upon us, but all the obligations and all the things to be responsible for and make sure that that happen. uh Very rare that we get to just sit and decompress and chill.
Yeah, and I also said too, thank God we're not all going through stuff at the same time.
As friends, yeah.
You
Right.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, because then, now I'm facing some stuff and I can talk to you about that stuff and you can be available and you can show up and you can be a service and it can be reciprocated,
Right.
right? It's not like we're living on one-way streets here, man. And
Right.
healthy relationships of all kind are two-way streets, so no one has all the answers, right? And so it's like I'm very blessed, like you said, just to have that,
Yeah.
right? And I think for men in general, if you don't have that, you should put that at the top of your priority list to be on the lookout for and seeking to find, you know, through 3, 5 friends like that,
Yeah.
handful. It's hard to get more than a handful that are really like that,
Yeah.
from my experience. But if you have that, you're in a really good spot. And I would say one of the things that's important uh, about everything that you said is that I, as your friend, got to witness a man going through stuff with honor and dignity and many times just being very compassionate with yourself. Like I
Yeah.
admired that because I'm not a lot like that,
Mm.
So it was good for me to be a part of that. And then also too, all of the learning that took place as a result of that.
Yeah.
It's like, man, what a gift. What a gift that is. And that's one of the reasons why we were kind of wanted to throw out the topic today of overwhelm is because whether it's your marriage or whether it's your job or whether it's being a leader in the household or with your business or whether it's, full-time fatherhood or it's all of it combined, plus your physical health, plus your financial health, and it's all these things, and you're in a position where you have very little room left for you.
Right.
Um, and so, like, I think the one of the really, really cool things about being engaged in this type of work of introspection and um, as our buddy Jim Hollis says, living an examined life, right?
Mm. Yep.
Is that like you can have a look at what's going on, and if there's stuff that you can't see, then you can talk to those handful of friends and they can point things out to you that maybe you don't see that they see, and like you can really start to figure those things out, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that Hollis says in that book, Living an Examined Life, is most of our anxiety comes from the collision between our smallness and the tasks that life asks of us,
Mm.
right? And it's like, okay, um, man, I am feeling very small,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And that's a problem, right? Because in that same paragraph or in that same chapter, he's also talking about that we must ask ourselves whether the life we are living is too small for us.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that a lot of times, like, because he goes into talking about like the psyche and all that stuff, and he's like, the only reason you're overwhelmed isn't because you're weak, it's because it's trying to grow.
Right. Right. Right.
And it's like, I'm sure that like you said, you're 55. Like, what bothered you when you were 35, you probably just shrug off now.
Yeah. Doesn't even
You
register.
know,
Yeah.
right. Because it's like you have already gone through being overwhelmed with that. feeling all of that pressure and grew through it to now it's like, oh, it's nothing, you
Yeah.
know?
You know, it, not, I don't want to cut you off, Joe,
You're
but,
good. You're good. Do
you
your
know, what's
thing.
so interesting about that. And another thing I've been thinking about a lot, is creativity. And I'll never forget this quote for, certain quotes just like hit you. Uh, they asked Rolling Stone magazine asked Cameron Crowe, the great director. He wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He did Almost Famous. He said, "What's the number one killer of creativity?" And he said, "Maturity." And I was like, oh man, I knew exactly what he meant, right? It's
Oh
the
yeah.
same thing that you just mentioned that gives me a lot of freedom to not be affected by things that when I was younger, I didn't have that wisdom. Couldn't see how it was going to play out. Those are also detrimental to creativity because you see how this might play out or this won't work because of that. So you're not naive enough to run with the idea. And as we all know, creative ideas it's a winding trail with lots
Hmm.
of little side paths. And so it's hard to, as you get older, to allow yourself that play and just to see what happens. So again, everything in life, it's about being where you are, doing your best to understand what your tendencies are because of the time in life you're in. That's one thing we can't change. We can't have all the wisdom of our 50s and our 30s. It's just not possible, right? It doesn't
No.
mean you're less than, and like I was just saying, in many ways you're greater than because you don't know the things you know yet, and you're not disillusioned by certain circumstances, and again, so cutting past the overwhelm. I guess some things we can do, Joe, like immediately. We talk about this quite a bit, but it's just for me, it's about I like to check in with my energy if I am feeling a little a little wound up, right? I'll just literally go, how you check your vibration. Is it really high and intense? You see, when we're driving is like the easiest time to see it. It's like sometimes I'm just like, Detroit leaning, man. And I'm like not worried about. But the minute if you feel a little late for something, everybody's an asshole. Everybody's in the way. You're the guy passing three people just to get caught at the same light. You know what I mean? And you're like, I'm that guy right now. But that's the vibration you're in. And even in moments like that, you can go, hey man, I can't change time. I'm gonna be 10 minutes late to this thing. It sucks, but everybody will understand. And that's not what anybody's going to remember about the time we have after I arrive. So it's all good. It's just about checking your head, man, and saying, how can I reframe a couple deep breaths, do wonders, just checking in and taking a minute to gather yourself is magic.
Reminds me of that old Carlin line where he goes, when you're driving, everyone that's driving faster than you is a maniac, and everyone that's driving slower than you is an idiot.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I like when you talk about the road, I'm an aggressive driver, bro.
Are you? Yeah.
I mean, you know my energy signature, so you already
Yeah.
know what's going on. Like I love to drive. I'm out there driving. Everyone's da 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 on their phone. Oh, look at the bay. The water's so nice. And I'm like, dude, get out of the left-hand lane and get in the slow
Yeah.
lane, please. You know?
No, that's, look, the people who are just
So
dumb.
funny,
If you
man.
don't know the simple lane structure, man, come on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But who gets me is the people who insist they're going to control the traffic. They're gonna
Oh,
push things when they can't be pushed, or they're gonna. How about the people who come to an almost complete stop before turning right onto a side road? The fuck are you doing? Yeah, it's not a school crossing, man. Just make the turn. You're here. It says Best Buy. You're good. Just turn the fuck in, man.
I'm glad my boy, the creative, feels the same way I do about people on the road. This makes
Oh,
my
they drive me
day.
crazy because I think we
Oof.
all feel that we're all the best drivers we know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
No man's ever going, I'm not a very good driver. You should drive. No man ever said that.
dude. Talking about what you're what you were mentioning though, in terms of like the just being where you're at. Like, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was from my mentor in my early 30s. And, you know, I was going through this whole kind of transformation of really just like discovery of figuring out who I really am, like really much like an unlearning process. Because I got sober when I was 26. So once you
Hmm.
start getting around 5 years, you start getting some walking around sense, and you can actually start, you know, like becoming on a path to where you can become who it is, you're supposed to be, and all that stuff. Because before that, it's just you have so much piled on top of you that you have to unravel.
Yeah.
And I remember like I was getting a lot of flack from people in my life about just always being high energy, always doing a lot of stuff, always participating, always on, always focused, wanting to do multiple things. And like I go to him and I talk to him about this. And I'm like, I have all these people in my family, and my wife is telling me that I shouldn't do this other thing on top of what I'm doing. And he looks at me, he goes, "So when are you going to do it?
Hmm.
Because when you're my age, you don't have the energy to. I'm
Hmm.
65." He's like, "You do two things when you're 33. That's when you do those things."
Yeah.
He's like, "Bro, you have to do these things now
Hmm.
when you have the energy to do them." He's like,
That's
"Don't
interesting.
don't let anybody push you away from the things that you want to do if you know you can accomplish it."
Yeah.
He's like, and then he says something I'll never forget. That was a big thing for me because he was like just telling me to be myself, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like he's like all those people don't even have the same energy you have.
Yeah.
Well, of course they're going to say it's not a good idea because they could
Right.
never do it, you know?
Right.
But then he said something that was really powerful. And this stuff comes up a lot. He said, you know, be careful who you're talking to about stuff because what you're trying to do, none of those people have ever done.
Yeah.
He's like, when I was your age, I was doing a lot. He's like, I'm in the moonlight phase now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell my portion of my business and get the F out of here. Like he's
Right.
like, but when I was your age, I was building. I
Building.
was
Yeah.
building. I was
Yeah.
building. So, you know, um, there's also something to be said about that in terms of, okay, like depending on who you are and you're listening to this, you really have to take a very clear examination and inventory of where you are at in your life,
Yeah.
what's most important to you. And what I would say is this, is that when I did add in that second thing on top of the full thing I was doing, Kevin, it gave me a charge,
Hmm. To
right?
fuel the other stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because
Yeah.
everyone thinks like, oh, if you're doing more stuff, then it's just going to drain you. Well, it
Right.
just depends on what it is.
Yeah. I'm glad you
Like
said that.
a lot of overwhelm is just you don't want to do the shit that you have
The
on your
wrong
task
stuff.
list.
The wrong
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was going to ask you about this because you're in a space where more is being asked of you, and in some ways, less is being asked of you in regard. Say, let's just isolate your training, your triathlon, right? That's something you're very
Yeah.
dedicated to, and you already gave me the answer. I was going to say, if let's just say you said, well, I'm going to give that up because it's not fitting into the family structure profile of how we need to spend our energy right now with a 1 year old, and what would that do to you? And I think you just answered, because first of all, it'd be a big compromise because it's something you're very dedicated to and you find very rewarding, and it would not help you to have more space. It would hurt you to give up a thing that brings more energy and more inspiration to everything you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, dude. At least that's been my experience this whole year. Um, so the evidence points towards that. That it's not just
Yeah.
something that we talk about. It's not something that it's not something that sounds good. It's what is, you know?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
obviously, here's what I'll say though. A caveat to that is that now being almost a year into doing it, it's different. In the
Hmm.
beginning, when you're training like that and you don't have a level of endurance base built yet, it is grueling.
Hmm.
So you could be dead the rest of the day,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Whereas now my fitness level is so high that I'll go and do a 3 hour or 4 hour bike, 50 or 60 miles with a 3 or 4 mile run off the bike from that, and I'm charged up the rest of the day. Whereas before, I'm taking a nap. I'm
Yeah.
just totally
Sleep.
zapped,
Yeah.
right? Because it just takes time to build up your endurance base, right?
Yeah.
It's just how it is. It's human conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about that, that it's obviously better now. But but again, that was just maybe, 1 or 2 days a week on the weekends with the long sessions. The rest of
Yeah.
the week, you're totally charged up, right? But it's been like that too with other ventures.
Yeah.
It's been like that with service work, all sorts of other things that you can put in.
Yeah. The other thing that came to mind when you were saying about do your best to find a friend. I know how hard it is to make new friends as you age. That if I think back, over the last, I don't know, 20 outside of the, let's call them work friends, industry friends, which I'm blessed because lifelong relationships. My hero, my mentor, John Carlton, is now one of my best friends in the world. The quality people you and I met through the industry. Outside of that, it was all other parents, and I'm blessed to have again some lifelong, really close friends, people that I truly love from that world. But if you don't have those things, it's just you got to force it a little bit by getting into, one of my therapists always tells me, I might have mentioned this, if I'm saying like, I don't know how to meet people, he's like, go do a beach cleanup, volunteer for stuff. He said, because good people do good things.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're not going to meet
Love
quality
that.
people at a bar, probably. You might, but it's, the odds are lower. Nobody's there. They're looser, maybe, and it's easier to talk or something. But go do good things that other good people are doing, and then say hello. That's another thing I've had to learn. And I'm pretty outgoing, but even in the times I don't feel like it, I say hello, or I'll say to somebody if I'm out, I'll say, "You having a good time?" And if they want to talk, they'll go, "I'm having a great time. We were just there, and we're doing this," and then you're having a conversation. If they don't, I literally had a girl. I was just trying to be friendly, but she was like a younger girl, and I could tell she was like the scared girl of the group. So I was trying to be like Papa Kev, and I was like, "Are you having a good time?" And she looked at me like this. She just went, "She's like, do not talk to strange old man." And I was like, okay, perfectly fine. Didn't, there's no consequence. I just left her alone. I wasn't trying to hit on her. But so if you know
I
your
don't I don't
intention,
talk I don't talk to guys that wear fedoras.
exactly, it probably doesn't help. I look like, half a pimp. Uh, but, so what I was going to say to you, because I, of my friends who are in recovery, they all have the blessing of incredible mentors, and
Oh
and
yeah.
and I know that's one network where I think that's one of the big, outside of the program itself. I'm sure the program assigns mentors at each level, right? But where else have you found a way to connect with people. Like I'm just thinking of a guy who's out there and he's like, I don't know, I don't like talking to strangers.
Oh,
I'm kind of in my
dude,
routine.
let me just tell you. So again, not saying that all you guys need to get out there and start training for Ironmans, okay? But this year, so I just did a triathlon 2 weeks ago, and there was four other guys from my training group that we've all met this year that we're all in a group text and we have formed a triathlon club in Land Lakes here. And we all met at the gym pool right here.
Wow,
Okay, and we've
cool.
all connected. So now we all train together. We're all talking about everything, and everyone is basically from like early 30s to middle to early 50s, right? And we're
Yeah,
all doing this. We all have families, we all have careers, and we've all like it's not like we're professional triathletes, right? You know,
right.
we're all
Making
middle-aged
time.
men that
Yeah,
are doing this and taking this on because we want something more in our life. And so, and then the other thing that I would say is too, is that when I go to these races, you're around a bunch of other people, like you said, that are healthy. They're doing active stuff for themselves. They're outside. Like the last two races I've been at, I've met dudes and I talked to them the whole time we were at the race. We just hit it off. We exchange numbers. We talk on social media now. We follow each other's Strava and stuff like that, right? When I was in Augusta, I went to the practice swim on the Friday before the race down the Savannah River, right? And and so I'm talking to these guys. I hop in the back of a truck with them, pickup truck, to go to the start of the swim practice swim. And we introduce ourselves and they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just north of Tampa there in Land Lakes." They're like, "Oh, we're from Citrus Park, which is 15 minutes south of me."
oh wow.
Right? Two dudes up in Augusta, Georgia, in the back of a pickup truck, and we live 15 minutes away from each other, right? And so, of course, you hit it, but it's like I'm putting myself in positions to talk with people. The other thing that was great for me when I had the restaurant was I was
Yeah,
highly active in CABA, which was Carrollwood Area Business Association, which is like a commerce thing, right? A chamber of commerce type deal, just a different one in my area.
yeah,
I was at all those coffee events in the morning talking to people. Everyone had my phone number. They booked reservations for me in my restaurant. I went to their events. I got to meet people. I got to know people. Same thing. When I was in South Tampa, I was going to ton of Chamber of Commerce events and stuff like that. Um, the other thing that I would say is that if you like to talk as much as Kevin and I do, I have two buddies that joined Toastmasters,
hmm,
which is incredible for
yeah,
learning how to speak on stage, do presentations, meet other people that are actively learning and that are also experts in public speaking. There's tons of networking events. I know another guy that's in a bowling league. He's been doing it for years, right? And there's just tons of middle-aged dudes and ladies in these bowling leagues, right?
yeah,
So it's just I'm the type of dude too that if I'm at the gym, I talk to people at the gym, and you see the same people
yeah,
all the time, and then you just talk to them, and then so it's just about finding common ground and common interest. And if you're passionate about something, there's other people that are, you
yeah.
know?
In the search.
It's
Yeah,
dude, it's like when I took Damien to MetroCon. Bro, I didn't grow up liking anime. I mean, I like it now because of my son. He's super into it. And so, like, we go to this MetroCon, it's freaking there's thousands of people there. I didn't even know that this stuff was this big. It's huge and it's way more mainstream than I went to school in the 90s.
yeah,
Back then, if you liked anime, you were a nerd. Now
yeah,
it's like everyone likes it and it's mainstream. So there's just
right.
all these different things, man.
Yeah. Live music's a great thing
Live,
to
yeah.
go to alone because it's not weird. There's a reason you're there to see a band, and other people
Yep.
are there who like similar music. That's that, it's funny, Joe, because you're like you put yourself into life. I kind of let life come to me. That's one of my problems. I don't know if that's the introvert in me, but I'm a faster no than I am a yes on, hey, do you want to come try, wakeboarding? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't whatever. you know, but fishing, anything, man. Um, and again, it's not that you have to go out with the intention to make a friend. I had this recent shift that's interesting, Joe. Sort of in my loneliness and being a solo artist in the world now. It's funny how some things you don't realize you were doing until you're not doing them anymore, you know,
Oh yeah.
when they're not
Yeah.
affecting other people, right? So I was going out earlier this year, uh, seeking validation. I may have talked about this on some episodes. I needed to understand who am I in the world as a solo artist. And so I was a little too maybe calculated, at least in my head, about how I was being perceived and how I was talking to people. I was feeling my way around this world of social being. It's funny. I met a kid, 24 years old, uh, at the bar the other night, who was at this flew in for this country fest, and he said to me, 24, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm here alone, so it's like I'm just trying not to look like a creep." I'm like, "You're 24. You don't even qualify. You don't even know how to be a creep." You know what I mean? But it was so funny to me that he had the same concern I did when I first started going out alone. Right? I just don't want to look creepy. And so now my point is, either way, either because I'm more comfortable with it or I'm in a different place. Now when I go out and there's an attractive woman next to me at the bar, I'll chit chat with her. I have zero intention of anything other than saying hello to a stranger. Could be a dude, could be a woman, doesn't matter, happens to be an attractive. Whereas before I would have been like, kind of in my head, like, don't screw this up, don't make it weird. Don't, you know what I mean? Like I had all these invisible rules in my head. And so that's another thing I'd say, if we're just trying to help dudes meet people, is like, don't be thinking about what it could become or what it should become, and just be yourself and say hello. And the worst that can happen is it's clear that they don't want to chat, and that's fine.
Well, the other thing is that's very important to note is that the real world out and about is not the same energy as social media.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just took my friend to breakfast this morning, my friend Sherry, who's just an amazing woman. And she's like the wise, the sage, And I needed some of that motherly wisdom right now with
Yeah.
everything I got going on in the marriage, right? And,
Yeah.
we're sitting out front of the Kiki's breakfast place. And you know me, man, I'm bouncing. I'm sitting on the bench next to her. She's chilling like she's got the chill Kevin Rogers kickbacks, ripping a cig feeling. And I'm on the edge of the bench and I'm talking and I'm animated and I'm bebopping around and smiling all big and loud. And three different people walked past on the sidewalk. All of them were older women. One was elderly with a cane, um, and then two of the other ones were probably in like their 60s. Okay. All three of them walked past, looked right at me, smiled big, and said, "Good morning." I said, "Good morning. How are you?" And it was the nicest, amazing interaction,
Mhm.
you know? And so when Sherry and I were leaving, she goes, we were just talking about how, like, when you're out in the world, everyone's not angry and bitter all the time.
Right.
I mean, I
Yes.
know that we see stuff. I'm not saying that we're void of what's actually occurring, some things that happen,
Right.
the downright evil or malevolence of people that's occurring. But that's a very small percentage of
Right.
frequency.
Right.
Whereas, like, there's random people walking past me that are acknowledging me, I'm acknowledging them, and we're having a small little connection, right? And it's kind of like that
Yeah.
Mother Teresa quote that the smallest form of love is a smile, right? And it's like we're
Yes.
sharing that.
Yeah, dude.
And like, and so I think that's the biggest thing, bro,
Yeah.
is
Most
like
people are
you
good.
get out,
Yeah.
get out, you know?
Yeah.
And I had a guy that I mentor that worked from home. He's built a lot and he's just been living in this cave as a developer and you know,
Yeah.
and he's like almost crossing the line of full-blown cynicism online, commenting on all of the
Yeah.
Instagram, going crazy. And then I came back from my trip to Tahoe and Yosemite, and I said to him, I said, "Man," he's like, I said, "Are you planning any travel soon?" He goes, "Why?" I'm like, you need to go somewhere." So he like randomly booked a trip to Portugal for himself for 2 weeks.
Awesome. Great.
And he called me on the first day and he goes, "Bro, when I got here," he's like, "all I could think was the thing that you said was that you said to me, you said, whenever I travel and I go out in the world, everyone just seems so much happier than they are online." And he's like, "I got here and it's like, it's so true, man." And he's like, "I've just been living in this bubble in my house and I've been just creating my own misery thinking that's the real world. And it's just not."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's look, man, I'm not an anti-AI guy, but we're starting to see now some lawsuits and things of people getting bad advice. A lot of people are using GPT as a counselor. And it's a whole other topic, but what you said is it's not, it doesn't even have to be in public anymore. They've made it so in private you can have a friend who gets you and supports you. And GPT is programmed to tell you you're always right and it's okay, you're not doing this, it's actually that, and that's healthy. And you know there's a 16-year-old kid who committed suicide and there's a lawsuit because GPT was just trying to be overly supportive and not, it's not a human. It's not a person with experience. It's not someone who can counsel you and hear you, right? It's just a program. And so it's more important than ever to just get outside, certainly travel, man. And you're so right about that effect. I wrote earlier this year that the trip I took with my son to Detroit, and we just thought, God, this is the greatest. Like, everybody's so cool and so nice. The difference is we were just excited to be there. And so everywhere we went, hey, we're from Florida. And they're like, oh, what are you doing here? We're here to see Jack White. Oh, Jack White, cool. I met him once. And well, you're saying hello because you feel like you're at a zoo and you're waving to animals. Like, there's no consequence. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you realize, wow, everybody's friendly, but it's really you that's being different. Everybody's that way. You can be a tourist in your own town. You can be invigorated. You can be outgoing, just like you would if you travel. But travel is the magic elixir for it, because you know why else, Joe, is because you need to know things you don't know. Oh, how do I get?
Yeah.
Where's the thing? And you're asking, and so there's more reasons to interact. That's another thing. You can even, it's like, ask people questions you already know the answer to, just to start a conversation if you want. And you'll see immediately like how helpful people are. This was staggering to me, Joe. You know what I did Sunday night? Went to Country Fest in Vinoy Park. I'm not a country music fan by trade, but that band I turned you on to recently, the Red Clay Strays, were headlining this whole three
Oh
day event.
man, they're a killer, man.
God, they're good. And but I tell you, if you're feeling, lonely and isolated and anxiety and depression, that guy has been through it and writes about it and sings about it a lot. But anyway, I mean, I don't know how many 100,000 people or something in this gorgeous park downtown, and to see young people out together, laughing, all dressed up for each other, meeting friends. I met so many cool young people. There was nowhere to sit in the whole place because they have a chair rental, you know. So to eat my sandwich, I'm sitting on a slab of concrete, and this other dude comes and kid must have been in his 20s, sits next to me, and we just start chatting and we eat together. And, and I'm like, everybody's always said, this generation, this Gen Z, they're not lost. They look exactly like my age group looked when I was that age. They're doing the same shit. Just to reiterate what you said, like what you see online, that is not most people. Yes, there's a lot of shitty people, but how often is there a blow up in the grocery store in the checkout line? Like maybe three times in your life, it's gotten weird, intense, and for the most part, people are there and they're cooperating, and they'll. I just, it's a really important thing you said, man. People are mostly good, and you don't need to be afraid. And if all you look for, and this is pretty much what drives online chatter, is consternation and conflict, and then yeah, you're going to start to see the world through that lens. It's your reference point for what to talk about. Can you believe this thing happened? And I read this person said this, and what I love about the Stoic philosophy is that you have the right to not have an opinion. You can check out of any topic and just go, you know what? Don't know, don't care. And it does not make you a lesser person. It will make you a better person for preserving your energy and in your vibration. So it's a lot of it is selective. We don't have to look at this thing every 10 seconds. You can set up blockers, you can do what you want. Just check if you're starting to see the world through the lens of what you see on social media, because I love that moment you pointed out. Just three women walking by, sensing your energy and acknowledging it, and just wanting to have a little interaction with you. Those little things really are reaffirming about people.
Yeah. And it's like, it made me think too that a lot of times I just get back what I put out,
Yeah,
and that, you know, like James Allen said in his book, As a Man Thinketh, which is just one of my favorites,
yeah,
it says, um, the inner external conditions can always be found in perfect harmony to man's inner thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Men don't attract that which what they want, but that which they are.
right,
And it's like you said, if I'm going to a bar to look for some fellowship, I'm going to find exactly what is I'm looking
right,
for there. If
right.
I go to a beach cleanup, I'm going to probably find the type of people that go to a beach cleanup. You know,
Yeah,
if I go to the barber shop and I hang out there long enough, probably going to get my hair cut. And so my dad used to tell me, so he's telling me I need to change my friends, and it's just, my nana always told me too, is just you show me who your friends are, and I'll tell you what you are.
no, it's true.
And so that old Irish wisdom, man, um, is the truth. And so it's like, okay, great. Well, guess I just got a whole nother added layer of people in my life, a little community that I built in less than a year.
Right. Yep.
And we're all in a WhatsApp chat. And I just got a message from my buddy Miguel that we've got another guy that's going to join us and come into it. And it's just all passionate, all talking about something that's not work, that's, you're not monetizing. Everything you do doesn't have to be
Right.
monetized.
Right.
Like you can just have a hobby, you can do something fun, but most of all, you're outside, you're benefiting, you're increasing your health.
Earth nature. Yeah.
But the one of the things that that you said that I think's really, really important, that I know you and I are both very, very keen on, and that's music, man.
Yeah.
And if I don't know about you, but there is a soundtrack to my life where every single time of my darkest times, my happiest times, no matter what the time is, there is a song that I have that's my favorite song for that time, you know?
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about musical therapy, you know,
Hmm.
and that, you know, get out there. If you play an instrument, even better, right? Get into it.
Yeah.
All sorts
Yeah.
of different stuff. But I know that when I took my son, like you, to Chicago for that System of a Down concert,
Yeah.
bro, there's so many people we were talking to, so many people, because you're all there because you like the same thing,
Right.
and there's thousands of people there, and you're
Yeah.
waiting in lines, and you're, you know, stuck in these seats, and you're doing this, and it's just like, the only people that are idiots are the ones that are just annihilated, but everyone else
Right.
is good and they get
Yeah.
removed quick.
Right.
So again, and it's the same with sport too. Like,
Yep.
I'm not super into all the traditional sports. I used to be into fantasy big time for years in the early days. Um, all my cousins and my uncles, all super wrapped up into sports, and they're connected on that, and they're taught. So there's just so many different things.
Yeah.
You just got to put yourself out there. And I think, to wrap a bow on what we're talking about here, these little outlets of passion are what can minimize the overwhelm of the day-to-day living. And
Yes.
that's what Kevin and I are talking about, is that we are both in our own way. Kevin and I are very different. We're the same, but we're different. Energetically, we're different. Um, you know, we already know that he's leans more towards introvert. I'm in outer space for extroverted. Like, all different ages, different generations, all these things. Um, but for some reason, we both align on the fact that if you don't advocate for yourself, and if you don't do what's best for you, and you don't honor that natural desire for community, that tribalism that we all have as a part of our own humanity, and you don't answer that call, that now solitude becomes a prison that you have created for yourself rather than a refuge of restoration, which is that's
Mm.
its intention, right?
Hmm.
For quiet, for contemplation, for real solitude, right? And I'll say this as well, is that Kevin and I are not much for trivialities.
Yeah.
Like, the
Small
reason
talk.
why we kicked it off is because we started talking, and then we got right into the meat and potatoes of talking about real shit. And then everyone around us is looking at us like we're nuts, because they just want to talk about surface level shit, And then we're like, that's when we decided to break off. We're like, hey, let's get each other's number and let's talk outside of this, because we got to play this game that we're here on this
Right.
shit. You know what I mean? Before we
Right.
scare everybody off. You know what I mean? Or they're trying to show up in the way that we're showing up, and they're maybe not, well seasoned in that like we are, right? So, but
Right.
again, there's nothing wrong if you are somebody that likes small talk and likes surface level stuff. There's other people that can do that.
Yeah.
Nothing has to be
One way.
at the depths of meaning. And it's like,
Yeah.
just find your tribe, man.
Yeah. That's it. Yep. Yeah. Find your people. And if you're like your buddy, that was a great example. You don't have to leave the country, take a drive, leave the state, but put yourself in a place that's new to you, and everything will feel new, and people will feel new, and the whole energy will be different. And you'll realize that everything's a choice. Every time
Yep.
I travel, particularly if I go out of country, the overwhelming thought I have is all I did was sit there. I had to make time and I had to obviously pay, but I just sat in a seat for maybe like 8 hours or what. And now I'm here in this majestic land I've only read about, and I'm standing in it. And it's just
Yep.
it's all available. And yeah. So as always, we're here for you, and we appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Oh, please share. That's our biggest thing. Please share this with anybody you feel like could find value in it. And check us out, meninthemiddleshow.com for our Substack. And we'll be back soon.